All right, welcome to the Breakthrough Podcast, and I am excited to be here with my man, Mike Pehrson. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome, dude. Well, the reason that we do this podcast, the Breakthrough Podcast, is because we want to inspire you to break through to the next level. And in order to do that, you got to hear from some of the most creative, most remarkable people in the marketplaces that we live and hear their stories, hear how they broke through. And I have met Mike, and the reason that I asked you to be on the podcast, Mike, is because I've met with you probably 5 or 6 times now. And every time I meet with you, it's like a layer that just keeps coming down. And as I met with you and heard your remarkable story, I was like, we got to do a podcast. And you and I were not even meeting about doing a podcast, but the backstory is we know who each other are from being in the marketplace, but you worked with my wife at Chase like many, many years ago. And you guys were both managers. You were both leading teams there in the mortgage space. And so I remember the day that my wife was like, Mike's going to go out. He's going to go be a retail manager. He's going to be a retail loan officer, and he's looking at, going to just changing everything that he's done. He was like in the call center, he was leading people, and now he's going to go out and do it on his own. And he's super excited about that. And, and I remember thinking, it's not easy. I remember the day. I remember thinking to myself, it is so hard. It's a long road from being a manager, leading people, to going out and hustling deals. And fast forward to, you have helped hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people, especially veterans, get into homes. And so finally we met, and I was like, this guy's remarkable. And you have a remarkable story that I thought was worth telling. And so, I just want to thank you for taking the time today to be on. And I hope that people, because when we talk about breakthrough and the things that happen in breakthrough moments, you've had many of them. And I'm just going to give a rundown, just like heads up, like people, this is going to be a wild ride. But this dude, the story about coming up, the story about, your brother, you were telling me like, your brother, you had to catch some guy doing some crazy shit there. You lost your wife at a very young age. You're a widower. You've been a father to your children. Just so many things that have happened in your life that I'm like, man, I don't even have a tenth of that that's happened in my life. And then I talk to you, and you're like this, you just wear confidence like nobody's business. And so that was one of the things we were talking about. I was like, dude, where do you get your confidence from, considering the shit that you've been through? And so anyway, man, thank you for being here today. I can't wait to hear your story today.
Well, hey, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate you taking an interest in the story. I'm happy to be here.
Dude, this is awesome. So, we were talking, and one of the things that I asked you early on was, we were talking about how you help you help veterans, and you have this really cool brand. So it's like motorcycles, and you're being like just a guy's guy. And I think that's helped you attract certain types of individuals that are like, this dude's cool, he can help me out. But then as we started talking, I was like, where's this interest? You're not a vet, where did the interest with vets come? And then you told me this wild story about coming up. So can you share some of that about how, you took an interest in military because of your upbringing? Because you have a crazy story, man.
Well, it's definitely a story. I was born to a military family. My father was a helicopter pilot and gunman during the Vietnam War. And I was born on Luke Air Force Base, and at a young age, I was taken from my parents. So there was 4 of us, and my father and mother just she had an abuse problem with alcohol and substance abuse.
Yep.
And one night some guy knocked on the door at our house late at night, and he was like demanding money from my dad for my mom owing him something. And he basically told the guy, get out of here, I'm going to shoot you. And then all of a sudden, later mom comes home drunk, high, who knows.
Yeah.
Attacks him. My brother takes the 3 siblings and puts us in the back room. He's trying to hide us in the couch. And all of a sudden, my dad comes into the room and slams the door, and then a knife comes through the door. And so he opens the door, and then the knife goes through his hand. And then mom left. And so he put us in the car. And
who's he? Who?
My father. My
Okay,
father.
your father put you
Yeah,
in the
so
car.
he
Okay.
put the 4 kids in the car,
Yep.
and he's driving. It's raining.
Yep.
And he gets pulled over by the police because he's speeding. So I remember looking out the window, and I was 3. I remember this clearly. And there he is with the hand wrapped up. He had a knife in it.
The knife's still in it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Cops are like talking to him. And that was it. After that, we were in foster home. So I'm assuming the state took us away.
Yeah.
And so I was in foster care for the next, 6 months or so.
Okay.
And then we were adopted, all of us, by one family. And also that family, my adoptive father, was an airplane mechanic on the same Air Force base in Thailand during the Vietnam War. Not at the same exact time, but ironically, he's a Vietnam War veteran.
Yes.
From the same Air Force base. So I come from a long line of veterans on both sides, the adoptive side and the biological side. And so I just have a vested interest in it. I grew up kind of a military kid. My dad was on top of us. Like, we had to have everything in line, or we were getting, we're getting smacked around. So,
well, this is an interesting thing, because when you say my dad, so do you have any sort of relationship, or did you carry on any sort of relationship with your actual father, the one that was stabbed in the hand?
So we all wanted to meet him, and so we met him when I think I was 15. And in walks this really tall guy. He's probably like 6'3".
Yeah.
Tall, skinny man, walks through the door, and he had completely lost his mind from the war. He had a lot of PTSD issues going on there. And then we met him there and realized that we were happy being adopted.
Yeah.
Because our parents wanted us to see, because we were like,
But that's a traumatic thing to go through, like, as a kid, like 3 years old, your dad's protecting you in some form or fashion, and then you get taken away. And then how long do you remember, or is it a blur to, like, what it was like to be with this random family?
We were with random families. I mean, I just remember it would just be somewhere new.
Yeah.
And there's just a few traumatic incidents that happened where I remember not, I was being like shipped around from home to home.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, then we finally found a home. And of course I didn't know where my dad was. Like,
Yeah.
I just wanted my dad. Like, I would bust through the door at one time in the middle of the night and ran down the street. My mom, I was like sleepwalking, but I wanted my dad.
Yeah.
And she drove up in the Suburban and picked me up. I was just sitting on the corner crying. But I had to go to like counseling and all that, like growing up, because I had daddy issues.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, how do you not, I mean, it's such a confusing situation. And I remember you posting this picture of you and your pops, your adopted dad, or your adoptive dad. I want to say you had bought like a house like up north or something, like in Chicago area, right?
It's
like,
Southern Illinois.
Southern Illinois, yeah. And you bought a property there, and you there was a picture of you two, and so that's your adoptive dad. That's the guy that brought you up.
And he was hard on us. He grew up on a farm, like kind of a ranch in Utah, and he had multiple siblings, and his dad was a hard ass. And so he kind of raised us that way. And I'll admit it, we got the belt, and I deserved all of it, I'm sure, and I have no regrets with that. And I wouldn't say that my dad and I became buddies until I was an adult. And then I realized, like, we're not so much different. Like,
yes.
we're more alike than I thought. And he's like my best friend. So the picture you saw is I helped him buy a truck because his vehicle broke down on his birthday, and I flew out, and he picked me up, and we went straight to a dealership, and we got him his truck.
Oh, hell yeah.
He was like, what?
Yeah.
If you watch the video, it's
you actually got him a truck.
Yeah.
That is a pretty remarkable thing to do. And I know obviously he'll never forget that. So in terms of as you were growing up, were you the oldest? Were you the middle?
Right in the middle.
You were right in the middle. And so you have older brothers or older sisters?
Yeah. So my parents adopted 5 children. And then they had a child of their own.
Oh my gosh!
So there's 6 of us.
6 of you,
and we're all from like different backgrounds and whatnot. But I have an older brother and 2 older sisters. Then it's me, and I have a little brother and a little sister.
You told me this crazy story about your son, and we'll get into that later. But how do you think that this is a really good segue, and we won't post this until after Father's Day. But how do you think this has made you, that experience changed you as a father and as the one leading the family today?
Well, you got to learn from your experiences, right? So I didn't have a close relationship with my dad. I mean, we really didn't have any sit down conversations. He was always working, supporting all these kids that they adopted, And my mom didn't work, so she was at home with the kids. And when I had my first son, Jake, I fought for him immediately. I had joint custody of him at 6 months old. So I had the 6-month-old baby, what I asked for, I went to court for.
Yes.
And I was like by myself. I'm rocking around with the cordless phone, like, Mom, what do I do? Like, I was freaking out. And but I loved him so much. And you know what it is? It's just like kids need to be disciplined. Like back then, it's like a generational thing, right? Like that's how my dad got it. I got it like my dad did, but then I got my kids and I put a twist on it. So all the things that I didn't get when I was a kid, I give all of that to my boys. I'm there. I listen to them. I spend time with them. Even if I'm not into what they're doing, like I'll go play my son in Madden football and get smoked 100-0, right?
Yeah.
And I do it for him because he's so happy.
Absolutely.
But all the little things, and you have to start at a very young age. Like you have to be that person in front of them all the time. And what happens is you build this relationship and this trust to where these kids, they just don't want to let you down. Like my boys, you should see, they're very proud. Yeah. They're very confident and they act a lot like me.
Yeah.
And they just, Dad, I won't let you down. Like, like military, like, and I'm like, it works. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it works for everybody, but it certainly has worked for me and my boys.
Well, this is an interesting thing because, when you think about the way that we came up, and I don't know that it's it could be a father thing, but no one I knew growing up had relationships with their dads. Nobody like hung out with their dads, but now it's like a thing, right? I think, for our generation, the way we were brought up, a lot of people are looking at it and saying, I didn't like the way that came. I didn't like the way I was brought up, and therefore I'm going to try to make these changes. So like you said, you had this twist when you brought up your kids, but you also had this other traumatic thing, and I'm skipping around, but like, there's no one I know in anywhere in my life other than you that lost their wife the way you did. And I mean, lost their wife, period. That's it. But then you did at a young age, and then you had children at that. So, how comfortable are you talking about that?
No, I'm happy to talk about it because it's an important story. She was a wonderful human being and she was very successful, and she got sick. And we had a New Year's Eve party. The turn of 2016, she got sick. She got pneumonia, and she had it that whole week. And she's Mexican, Hispanic. Yep. And she's like, "Oh, I'll just take some tequila and some honey, and I'll be okay." And I'm like, "You should go." All right. And so she's very stubborn about it. And then she wanted to go see her mom that weekend, and so she went down to Tucson and took our little boy. And she had an unexplained seizure episode, and it killed her.
I mean, literally like that? Or did she go to the hospital?
Yeah, she had a seizure. She was pronounced dead. They were doing the defibrillator. They brought her back, her heartbeat back, and then she was in ICU on all the machines for the next 2 weeks until her prognosis worsened, and the seizures wouldn't stop, and she had widespread brain damage, and then that was it.
How old were you?
It was 7 years ago, so she would have been 39 actually just a couple of days ago. She died at 32.
Wow. And so
I was probably 38.
So you get a call. You're where when you get this call?
As they're doing the defibrillator on her, I'm getting a phone call.
Where were you?
I was here in Gilbert.
Yeah. And
so I jumped in my truck, and I remember driving like 120 miles an hour down that crazy road, and it was raining, of course, so make it even more dramatic.
Yeah.
Just with my mom on the speaker, and I'm just sobbing. And between the tears and the rain, I couldn't see shit. And somehow I made it to the hospital in Tucson in 1 hour, that means I was flying.
You were flying, yeah.
And I remember walking in the room, and everybody was calm, and they took me back, and they pulled the curtain, and there she was. And even though she had a heartbeat, she wasn't there. You knew, yeah. You will know, and I knew.
Yeah.
I knew. Wow. I felt like she was just standing next to me looking at herself, and we're both like, what the fuck just happened? And for the next 2 weeks, there was hope that they could bring her back, but she would never be the same. She'd probably be in a wheelchair, with widespread brain damage.
Just not the way to live.
And that, man, she drove a Mercedes. She had big fancy jewelry. I mean, Tracy knows her. Yeah. She was a pretty girl.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And that's no life for her. And so after 2 weeks and getting worse, we just had to stop it. And that was terrifying.
Wow. And then, so as how old were your kids at the time?
So it's just, I had my little boy, Jackson, was 3.5, and Jake was probably 12 or 11 and a half. And Jake I had with a previous girlfriend, but Jackson was the one that I had with her. And he actually saw it happen.
Who he was with her, yeah. So
he was there. He saw it. Like they had to take him out of the room.
And he was, you said 7?
He was 3.5.
3.5. Sorry, Jake said, okay. Yeah.
So I had just joined the retail world in 2015. You know, I left Chase, like third quarter 2014. Took some time off. Then I got on with Movement at the turn of the year 2015. Building a team. I had a branch. You know, I was excited and I had some momentum going in that whole year. I was probably doing close to $2 million a month, just coming out the gate, swinging, brand new guy.
Yep.
And then she died. And so all of a sudden, my focus changed from doing loans to taking care of this little boy. Absolutely, because I had to make sure that he was emotionally, just all the things, like he was okay. And so I just focused all my time on him.
Yeah.
And he's amazing. Yes. Honor roll student, well-rounded. He's in the orchestra. He's in the drama club. Jeez. And he's still out there smashing kids on the football field. Yes. So
it's amazing, but I mean, it's a remarkable situation because, you know, you went through this as a child where you were pulled away from your family,
3.5,
and same age where he now is being pulled away from his mother. And that's a whole different traumatic, you know, experience. And to see that he's doing well, and you know, you and I have talked several times, but every time we talk, your face lights up just about, you know, your kids. And you were talking about your oldest coming over, and just, you know, watching your pride as a father is something that I think, you know, when a day like Father's Day comes up, I hope that you're honored, you know, in a way that maybe, you know, most people don't understand, but I think that you've done a really, really amazing job with that. And you know, we didn't say this up front, but, you know, the reason that I wanted to meet with you was not only because you're an amazing loan officer in the marketplace and people need to know who you are. You have 25 years of experience doing this, right? You're a veteran in the mortgage space, and you're also helping veterans get into homes. You've created this amazing brand. I've watched your success throughout the way, and I always, you know, come back to, man, this guy has this amazing story that needs to get out, which is why I wanted to talk to you. But I love the success that you've seen, and question for you is, how do you think all these things that have happened to you, right, in life, the things that have happened in your family, the things that have happened with your wife, you know, you having to become a father in a way that maybe you weren't prepared for 2 times over. Right. And then, you know, how did that play into your success as, you know, a loan officer and a leader in the mortgage space?
Well, I would say that ever since I was a kid, I always felt like I had to do things like a little bit harder, like try harder and do better for my parents, for my mom, because she was 30 and she adopted all these kids. Yeah. She adopted 5 kids within 2 years. I was adopted in 1980. They adopted my other sister from Korea in 78. So here they are, 30 years old, my mom. And I'm like, I owe it to her to like be a good kid. Like, I'm the only kid in my family that got a license and a car on their birthday at 16.
Yeah.
I had 3 siblings older than me that didn't even have a license.
Wow.
And so, excuse me. So having said that, like that's how it's always been for me. Like, I have to be that person standing up for my brothers. And I've been in fist fights for my little brother. I can't even countless times. Yeah. And I've carried that same mentality in the workplace. I started it, you know, it was, what was it? It wasn't Chase. Bank One. I started at Bank One in 1998, and they hired me as like a business banker. And within a year and a half, I was a manager. So I was running a branch. And so I did that. And then my buddies and I that worked there, and Tracy being one of them, we just found ways to just smash everybody. Yeah. And I always had this drive in me, and it's from like my upbringing. Like, I just have to win, you know, like I gotta do it. And it's not even just about me. It's about my family. Like, you probably know this. I help my family. Like, if they need help financial or whatever they need, like, I help people. So I have to be that rock. Like, I have to do that. Yeah. So even when my wife passed, I took some time away and I just really focused on my boy. And then I just got complacent in a sense that I just wasn't maxing out my potential. And I still haven't. I'm actually just on the brink of doing that. Like I'm just getting out there in social media. I'm like, and that's why I like this podcast. It's kind of like reintroducing me, saying,
Absolutely,
look, I'm here.
yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
here. And I'm out here swinging. Like, you know, throwing blows, like just knocking them down, man. It whatever it takes. Like I'm getting loans done for my real estate agents. I'm not letting anybody down. And that's just where it comes from. That drive is, it's a little bit deeper than other people's.
Well, that's what it's about, right? So, like, if you think about, when we talk about breakthrough and what it means to break through, there's millions of breakthroughs that people will have gone through, right? And so, in life, there's these moments where you're stuck, you're pissed off, you feel like your voice isn't heard, you feel like, something mentally has to change in order for you to change your situation, and then, boom, you make the decision and you break through. And it happens. It happens on everything. And so, the comment that's been told to me many times is, in order for there to be a breakthrough, there has to be a breakdown. And sometimes those breakdowns can be mentally. Those breakdowns can be you're fed up with it, or the breakdown could be, in your case, there are things that happened around you in circumstances that you couldn't even control that you had to break through. You couldn't have ever predicted that you would be a widower. You could never have predicted that you would have to be a father in the way that you had to. And so those were breakthrough moments, right? And so that's why I love having conversations with people like you, because I see your success in the marketplace, and I also see it as this is an individual that is not telling their story to the masses in a way that would help them connect with you. And there's so many, other men that will hear your story and say, man, that dude has heart, right? I want to do a transaction with him because I think that what his story is all about resonates with me. And, how you've been able to help people. Like, somebody will see a video of you rolling down the street in a Harley and judge you one way, and then hear your story and be like, that's not the guy that I completely, it's a completely different dude. And so that's why I love about that's what I love about what you're doing, is you're inspiring people to get their story out. And I wanted to give you the platform to be able to tell it. And this is what I love about these conversations. For you, of all the breakthroughs that you've had in life, right, that you've had to go through, what's the one that really stands out to you, where your back was against a wall, you felt like the world was closing in on you, and you said, fuck this, I'm gonna figure that out, and I'm gonna do it this way. What was that moment for you?
I kind of feel like that moment's right now.
Interesting.
Because
of everything that you've been through, bro. I mean, you have been through some shit, dude.
Yeah,
and it's right now. This is the moment where you're about to really get to that point where you're pissed and you're gonna break through.
It's funny because it's a good question, but that's my honest answer.
I love it.
This market's fucked up. Like, the last couple of years have been crazy.
Well, let's give the audience. So there's people let's really break it down. People who are listening to this, they could listen to it for many reasons, but they're not always in mortgage or in real estate, right? So talk about what it's like to be a mortgage loan officer in the market today. I mean, from your perspective.
It's very lonely.
Yeah, it's a lonely world.
It seems very lonely right now. I mean, 2020, 2021, we were so busy. It was like you could turn people away. And now it's like, I would love to talk to anybody. Please call me.
Right?
But that's the breakthrough right now, is that I like I said earlier, I know that I haven't tapped out my full potential. And I've just been able to get by and do well enough to where I'm comfortable. But now, like, seeing the market, you got to get with the social media thing. You got to get with the times, or you're going to get left behind. And I realize that. And so I'm like, no more of this. Everything's okay. Like, I'm just going to cruise control through life. Like, I want to come out, and I'm going to come out swinging right now. And I'm going to do more video and get back out there. So I would say, and especially because now it's being recorded.
Yeah.
This is my breakthrough then.
You can't come on here on the Breakthrough podcast and say you're going to break through and then disappear. That shit ain't happening.
Hell no.
But I don't think it would be with you. I mean, I don't think it would with you. And I think that's where why I was like, this is, I see it. And you know what? I actually agree with you. I see that we had talked a couple of times, and you've always kind of been like, hey man, I'm on cruise control. I'm rocking. I'm crushing it. I'm happy. And I don't care what loan officer you are. Right now, you are feeling this market. You are feeling it, and you're looking at your business and saying, what do I got to do to turn it up? And I've seen more loan officers do more social media in the last 90 days than I've ever seen, because they're seeing the importance of getting your word out. The difference between you and anyone else is your story, and your story is different, and it resonates. And there's a lot of impact that you can have for somebody that's gone through what you've been. I mean, even though I only know one person with your story, there's a lot of aspects of your story with people out there that share the same interest, and who better to do a deal with than someone that resonates with the same type of, sentiment and the same type of background that you have, from foster kids, or being a foster kid, to losing your wife, to being a single father, to having the struggle of a 6-month kid and figuring out like, hey, I wanted this, but now what do I do with it? What am I, and then to watch 18 years later that you actually accomplished something pretty darn amazing, so all those things are amazing. So tell me about it. Like what, when you look at your business today, and if you were talking to a loan officer right now, what advice would you give them?
Put your head down, get your hustle game on. Everybody's out there scrapping for what's out there.
Yep.
And there's a lot of good guys out there, a lot of good loan officers, a lot of talented folks out there. It's going to be a grind. And those just walking into this business, I mean, hats off to you if you can come out here swinging and throw down some deals. I mean, this is the toughest that I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
And I've been in the game a long time.
What's crazy is, and this is, just us talking about like what's crazy about it, not to interrupt you, but like there is loan officers who are brand new in the industry who are crushing it right now because they have no understanding of what everybody just went through. So, from the perspective of living 2020 and 2021, imagine this, listeners, imagine this. Imagine everyone who owns a home and everyone who's renting now has the opportunity, unlike any time else in lifetime, to do a transaction with you. And all of a sudden that bus stops. Your reality is completely changed because you could turn away deals, and now you're like, what happened to that person? Somebody else helped them already, and so now we're scrapping. And, the loan officers that are crushing it are doing probably 3 things really, really well. One, they have a marketing strategy, whether it's social media or whatever the case is, but there is a strategy. Number 2, they have a cadence of talking to their past clients and making sure that they're consistently being helped. And then number 3, they have a CRM that's doing, amazing work behind the scenes with them. But those that have those 3 functions on a consistent basis are going to win. And you'll be surprised, man, how many loan officers I meet that don't have any of the 3. And it's a crazy time to not have those.
And I 100% agree with that. I definitely have all of those in place.
Yeah.
Do I maximize like the use of those? Probably not.
Yeah.
I think that's
good point. Yeah. But a lot of people won't admit that, and I love that you do.
Oh yeah. I'll be the first to tell you that. Like I picked up a coach recently. Like I have a coach.
Good for you, man. Yeah. All right.
So I pay a coach. I got a coach. He's a $100 million producer, and I don't want to let him down. So all of a sudden, I'm doing the videos that I didn't want to do. Yeah. That's why all the videos all of a sudden.
Good, yeah.
I'll let myself down all day long. That's fine, but I can't let somebody else down.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing fine, but I need to be doing this.
Yes.
And so I picked up a coach, and I don't want to let him down.
Good for you, man. So, I've said this before on content that I've done, but there's 2 types of people in the world. There's people with coaches and people without coaches. And, you've gone through life being a leader, and all of a sudden you now have a coach. So tell me, how did you identify your coach? If somebody was out there looking to get a coach, what would be your recommendation for that?
I would just say it wasn't even humbling for me. It's just a smart move.
Yeah.
Every guy that I know that's a top guy has a coach. Yeah. That's just what you got to do. You got to have somebody hold you accountable. People are sharing best practices on a level that you don't have access to. So I would just say that, getting a coach necessary. find a way to get somebody in there in the game that can help you share ideas, hold you accountable, and we'll see where it takes me.
How many sessions have you been in?
It just started at the end of April, so it's been.
What'd you pay? What are you paying?
I think it's like $1,200 a month. But
that's a lot. That's a lot of that's like a car, a really nice car or a house payment, you know. So that's crazy. So
I'm not paying all of that. I'm paying a portion of it.
Good. But like I got I had a coach for probably I want to say like 4 months, 3 to 4 months, and it was like $2,500 a month, and
it's a lot.
Oh, dude, it was. I mean, and you know, it was during like the heyday, so I didn't really mind it. You know, I would probably have a little bit more of a problem paying that now, being in the situation that the mortgage industry's in. But I fired him like 3 months later because he would just do weird shit, man. Like he would. Let me think of some reasons why I fired him. Well, number one, I started dreading the calls with him. Like I was like, I don't want to do that call.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, then why do I feel like that? And I would get in these calls and he would like give me this homework to do and I would do the homework. And so like for me, I barely got out of high school, right? Like I'm not an academic by any means. So giving me homework and having to do that, I was like, I don't want to do this. And it was like all this shit you had to think about and be by yourself with and, you know, reflect and write. And so I would do it, and then he would never even mention it the next time we got on a call. I'm like, bro, did you even like see what I did? Like, are we just not even going to reference all the work that I put in? And then
sounds like you didn't have a good coach.
Well, no, but here's what's crazy about it, because I hope he never sees this, but like, here's what's crazy about this. He actually, like, the advice that he gave me on the calls was powerful. Like, it helped me. You know, he was like, I remember I was in a negotiation for something with my higher ups at work. I was negotiating a different role, and when you make a change in the mortgage industry, no matter what change you do, there's a comp plan that comes in place. And I was like, you know, trying to figure out how that was going to work, and especially if you're taking a step up. To take a step up means that you're going to get lower pay. Like people think you're going to get more money. It's actually the opposite. So I was trying to figure out how is this going to work, you know? And when you're in negotiations, it's business. I don't care, you know, what it is, but he gave me some really good advice. He said, you know, first off, acknowledge the fact that they don't want to be there. They don't want to be negotiating with you. Right. And so if you're coming off like a douche, you know, that's not going to work, you know?
Right.
So acknowledge that the fact that like you guys all just want the same things. You just need to figure out how the money works. And it was just like really powerful information, and it worked in my favor. But it changed my demeanor because I would go into these meetings and I was just like completely like not the same person that I was in a day-to-day. I was like ready to like, you know, I just didn't trust anybody. And I was like, why do I feel like that? So I hired a coach. He helped me out with it. So I think, you know, the reason I tell you that story is because I think in times in life when you're at a point in your career where you're stuck, sometimes getting a coach helps you get unstuck. It doesn't mean that they're going to be a life coach for the rest of your life. It could be, I need them for the next 6 months and then I'm going to find somebody else.
And that's probably, like I said, this is my breakthrough. I'm trying new things to maximize my potential. Like, let's see where it takes me. Get the coach, try it out.
Absolutely.
You know,
I love it.
Doing the social media things. So
absolutely. And I think the social media thing for you, for the sake of the conversation, I think that, you know, for a guy like you who has an amazing story and who is doing some really creative, like your video. For those of you that are listening, this is AZ Mortgage Mike. Just look for him on Instagram and follow, because his content is very different from most of the content that I'm seeing, but I think that's what's going to help you stand out. Now it's time to just pour gasoline on it and get like tons of it out there, because I think you can't oversaturate the market with your story. And I think you have a really, really interesting story, but you know, you're helping people. How? Let me ask you this. How did you cross into this specialty? Because there's loan officers who are generalist, who help everybody, and, you know, kind of can, and you've kind of specialized in helping veterans in a way that most people haven't leaned in on that. Tell me about that.
Well, I just want to make it very clear that I will help anybody.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
And just to back up a little bit, like when you talk about my social media, and if you watch it, it might seem like I'm some scary guy, but I'm just a big goofball. I've been very humbled in life.
Yes.
But everything's genuine, and I use that word to describe myself. It's what you see is what you get. Mm-hmm. I care so much about every client. I care about my damn Zillow review. Like if I don't get 5 stars, I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack.
Yes.
You know, I got a 4.5. That was the lowest one I ever got recently at the turn of the year. Perfect transaction.
Yes.
I was like, I wanted to call the client and be like, what the hell's wrong with you? You just ruined my perfect streak.
Oh my gosh.
I care about everything. I want my real estate agents to be happy. I want them to be like, I love Mike. And then they tell their other realtor friends. And, you know, any agent that's ever dealt with me, I'll stand by this. We'll say, he's a good guy, genuine guy. Like he knows his shit. He doesn't fuck up. Like that's who I am.
Yes.
But having said that, like, you know, when you deal with veterans, these guys, you know, in active military, they're risking it all out there. I mean, what they're doing, their sacrifices for the country, you know, the sacrifice they're doing for, you know, leaving their families. They have all this shit going on. And then, you know, they go to buy a home and they get some loan officer that puts them through the ringer, and they don't deserve that. Yeah. They deserve like red carpet rolled out. Like, let me walk you through the process and make this so easy for you that you tell all of your military buddies. Yeah. And it's just kind of been like that for me. They're all referrals off of, you know, I don't buy leads or any of that. But yeah, it's just people word of mouth, and it's compounded. And I constantly do, you know, I do a couple VA deals a month or whatever, maybe more. But that's kind of what it is I took an interest in, especially if I get a veteran on the phone. I mean, any client, but you get a veteran, I mean, it's like, you got to lay it down for military style. Boom, boom, boom. No messing around. Yes. Bang it through. Done deal. And they're just like, what just happened? Yes. In fact, I have a guy, Robert Cox, veteran. He was renting, okay? Yep. And I had lunch with a real estate agent. And then that agent went to Robert Cox's apartment that night to have a beer or something. And he's like, why are you renting? He's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can qualify. He's like, oh, dude, I just sat down with this loan officer, Mike Pehrson. Should give him a call. I'm not even kidding. 2 weeks later, dude's in a house.
That's crazy.
I'm not even kidding. It happened last month.
Yes.
And he's still blown away. The review's out there. He's already mentioned it, but you know, and he says it in the review. I'm just sitting at home in my apartment 2 weeks ago, and now I'm sitting at home in my new house.
So how were you able to do that? I mean, to talk about like your ability, because there's a loan officer somewhere listening out there saying, how did he do it in 2 weeks?
Well, it's all about, number one, as a loan officer, you need to know your shit. Okay? Yeah. Don't over ask him for stuff. Don't submit the wrong things. Know what you need. Yeah. I know exactly what I need from my clients. Where did you learn that? How did you learn that? Man, I learned it at Chase. And here's why. Because when you pull a credit report, you take an application, you make sure it's clean, right? Yep. Then you pull a credit report, and you have to go through that report. You're basically reading the story of their life. Yep. And you need to understand who that client is by looking at their credit report. You can see, you know, what their credit history looks like. What you know who they are.
You get the profile, right?
You know who they are. Yeah. So that's what it is. I learned it from Chase, because I'm sitting there with my guys, and I'm like, did you even look at the credit report? Yes. What's the matter with you? You didn't see this on the credit report? Yeah. Because if I didn't do it, my boss would be my ass. Why aren't you going over the credit report with your guys? Yeah. So that's where I learned it, from Chase.
So funny. Anytime like we get burned, you know, on a deal, you find out like they have an equity line somewhere that you know, it's like, give me the credit report, and then boom, like, how did you not see this? Like it's plain as day, you know. But there's a lot of loan officers that will miss things like that, and so attention to detail is probably one of the most important things.
Yeah, I mean, credit report, and then read your AUS findings, DULP, read them. It's not hard. Just look at it and then get exactly what it asks for. Don't get anything more. Yeah. So it's getting the right stuff up front, submitting the perfect package to the underwriter. Yep. Meanwhile, you got to have your process in place. Like you got to get that appraisal ordered immediately. I'm on the phone with the agents. I need that pest inspection. Yeah, I need that, because if there's anything wrong on that pest inspection, we got to fix it, and it has to be cleared. We got to send the dude back out. Yeah. And so I have agents going through and tidying up what might, you know what I mean? If there's a faulty grade, go run some rock over it. Yeah. And they do that. Trim the trees off the house. Yes. You know, save everyone the headache. So that's the kind of stuff that a good loan officer should be doing.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that. So, I mean, dude, this is what it's all about. I mean, I love seeing you fired up about this, because so many people, like, look, if you're going to be a decent loan officer in the marketplace, and you're going to be just good at what you do, when you get a veteran, you know, you got to take that extra step, because there's so much at stake with like a guy 2 weeks in an apartment. I mean, if you didn't get him into that house, then another month rolls in, or his lease has to, he has to find a place. And that's the worst thing to do to somebody who served our country, right? And it's worse to do to anybody, but to do it with that, it even compounds that.
And sadly, I've run across veterans that have disabilities, or, they're injured at war, and unfortunately they have bad credit because of it. And here they are, like, they want to buy a house, use their VA benefits, but their credit is bad.
Yep.
And it's because of, injuries at war, or they're over here fighting, and then credit goes to shit here.
Yeah.
Whatever the reason is. So I will help anyone. I will fix credit. I don't send them to credit repair companies. I just run it through our credit system and do the what if simulators, and it's pretty easy. And it's always accurate for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I tell them what to do, and then you just nurture it and just let it develop, and boom, 6 months later, it's like a Christmas gift. You're just handing it to the real estate agent. And you're like, they're good to go. And they're like, oh my gosh.
Here's a tip for anybody listening that's helping veterans. Like, if they've ever been to war, most likely, or they've ever been in combat, they're disabled in some fashion. So getting them to do the medical evaluation is key, because if they come back, whether it's even minor hearing loss, then once they become, disabled, then that funding fee goes away, and that's a significant savings that you're getting to a veteran by counseling them to get them into taking it, especially if they've been to combat. I mean, that's really where, it benefits. But a lot of veterans, man, have, like, my dad was one of them. Like, for the longest time, I'm like looking at him saying, you have disabilities, and he didn't want to go and do the medical evaluation. He had too much pride to do it. I'm like, you got to get in there and do it. And then once he did, he was like 100%, disabled. And so it's like crazy that, veterans are just like, don't want to do it. It's like a pride thing.
Well, that's one of the first things I look for. I tell them, look, just shoot me over your DD-214, and then I just extract their certificate of eligibility off the VA portal, and I can see right there if they're disabled or not.
Yep.
And then have a conversation around it then. But I go just straight for it. Like,
straight for it, yeah.
I want to make sure that you're, you have your COE, like, in your entitlement. Otherwise, you got to go to talk to VA.
There's so many people that just don't even know. Yeah, I love that, man. So where do you take it from here, brother? I mean, like, this is like one of your moments where I feel like this is going to be, Mike coming out of, where he's been to this new guy with this new brand. And where do you want to take it? What's the goals? Put it here, put it out. Let's manifest this today, man.
I don't know, man. It's going to be. It's like, I got hit on my Harley. I think I told you this.
See, this is like another.
Some girl
that
T-boned.
You've gone through is this crazy.
She T-boned me going 45. I flew diagonally 3 lanes in oncoming traffic. Thankfully, nobody hit me. I'm laying in the gutter, and I was away. I mean, I was blacked out as I was flopping around, and I can just hear my motorcycle getting ran over. And then I see the cars screeching, and they stop from, like, me to the door there. And I was like, oh my God, I'm alive. Like, I can't believe this. And I just like, I got to get up.
Yeah.
So my right leg was busted. My foot was shattered, and my Achilles was lacerated. And I got on my one foot, and here's this dude hopping off the road, and everybody ran up. Women were crying. People were, like, trying to help me. And my bike was all mangled, and the paramedics got there. They're all standing there staring at me. They're like, I don't even believe what we're looking at right now. This is crazy, because normally there's a dude with his bones sticking out, screaming, or a dead guy.
Yeah.
Not some guy
smiling.
smiling.
Are by far the most dangerous thing.
And, I kept it quiet, because when my wife passed, I lost a lot of business because people want to give me my space. And unfortunately, it hurt me. So I kept it pretty quiet. A lot of people didn't know this. In fact, some people are probably just finding out.
I mean, considering, like, how much I do know, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, they were gonna take my leg. There was a week where I had to let it. They gave me a week to let it heal a little bit, and then I had my surgery. So, but what I did is, I knew my bike was mangled, so I went out and I was looking immediately for a new motorcycle, and I find this one. It's perfect. I go down there, crutches. I'm banged up.
Yeah.
Road rash all over, and this dude's like, you're crazy. You want to buy this motorcycle? And I'm like, yeah, meet me at the bank on Monday morning. So then I took the whole weekend, and I hate ice baths. I'm the biggest pussy when it comes to cold water.
Yeah.
And I put my foot in an ice bath the whole weekend to get the swelling down.
Yep.
I shoved it in a cowboy boot, and I went to the bank. So I had to walk like I had a broken leg, and I rode that motherfucker home.
Oh my God.
So I pulled it in my garage, and then I had surgery the next day. And so for 16 weeks, I just looked at it.
Yeah.
And then I would go outside and turn it on.
I gotta
My
hear
friends
that.
would be like, "Oh, dude, it sounds dope."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, hopefully I can ride it."
Yeah.
So the day after I got my cast off, I woke up and the rain had just cleared, and I took it for a spin, and I pulled up and I was having a Bloody Mary down the street at Rooster's, my favorite bar. And I called my girlfriend. I said, I ain't selling it.
Yeah.
And I knew that I could flip it and sell it for the same price or maybe make a little money. It was a great deal. But if anything, it's just like, that's who I am.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't giving up. Like, you can punch me in the face and I'm just going to just keep coming.
Yes.
And so I don't know how that relates to your question, but that's just where my mindset is. It's like, you know, no matter what life throws at me, I'm just going to keep coming.
You're just going to put a boot on and strap it in and keep rocking, man. I think that's what it's about. I think that if you could if people can figure out a way to get over adversity by getting back on the horse, if you will, and in your case, getting back on a Harley.
Steel horse.
Yeah, the steel horse, right? Steel horse. A little reference to Bon Jovi there. If you can get back on a steel horse, then that's what it's about. It's getting back on and riding it out. And I think for you, I can't wait to see this, man, because this is going to be, you know, you're hearing him here first. And if you go back and you look at the guests that I've had on the show, I don't normally look for guests that are with big names. My goal is to find the people before they become the big names in the industry. And you have been in the industry for 25 years, and you're now looking at the industry differently to say, this is not time to kind of coast through it. It's time to just start crushing it. And I can't wait to see what you do, man. So I can't thank you enough for being here today, for sharing your story, and tell people again where they can find you.
Mike Pehrson on Facebook, and hashtag AZ Mortgage Mike. You'll find me. Just look for the bald guy riding around on a Harley.
Well, man, I can't wait to see what you do. Thank you for being here. And for those of you that are listening to this podcast and you made it all the way this far, go through and smash the like button, subscribe to the podcast. Once we switched, we recently switched the name from the Chris Medine Show to Breakthrough, and we have, you know, tried to regain all the traction that we were getting. We thought we'd keep all the same listeners. So get out there, subscribe. But also, if you want to see and get to know who Mike is, the Chris Medine YouTube page, and you will see this live. You get to see who Mike is and watch this whole thing. Instead of listening to it on your headphones, you can actually check it out on YouTube. So, Mike, thank you for being here, brother.
Hey, and I just want to say one thing, and I've watched you grow over the years. Like, I've heard all the things. I've seen your progress, man. You've done great for yourself, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, brother. That means a lot to me, dude. And listen, where I can help and getting friendships like this are what this industry is about. You know, Mike is a 20-year veteran of mortgage, works at Fairway Mortgage. He doesn't even work with the company I work with, but, you know, the reason that I want to connect with different loan officers is because I don't think that we in the industry do a good job of collaborating with people at different companies, because we all kind of live within our own worlds. You know, even you, I think you had mentioned it, like, man, people are going to see us on this podcast. They're going to think like, and I'm like, dude, don't worry about that. I mean, this is about building brands. It's about, you know, helping you, giving you a platform to tell your story. And it's really about impacting, even if it's just one person out there that's listening to this podcast that said, I've been through what that dude's going through, and now I know how to, you know, work my way through it, or I'm inspired. That's what it's all about. So thank you, brother.
And you know what? If there's anybody out there that wants to talk to me about it, I'd be happy to talk about any of it with them.
Absolutely.
Any way that I can help. And just remember that no matter how bad you have it, there's always someone out there. There's always worse things.
There you go, brother. Thank you, man.
So.
Thank you for offering that. Yes, hit up Mike. And if you need anything, hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. You want to hear any other type of content, or you want to be a guest on a podcast, hit us up. We can't wait to talk to you. Take care, everybody.